in that space. Thank you very much for your time and good morning.
Yeah, good morning, bro.
Yeah, I hope you're well.
I am trust you at.
Well, I guess, first of all, have you seen the special prosecutor's statement?
Yes, I've seen it and just glanced through.
What are your observations, first of all, before we go into some of the details that needs explanation?
I think it was expected because this issue was raised by some of us during the previous government. So we had wanted the previous government to pursue. But based on how we ran our politics and governance, we knew they wouldn't. But fortunately for us, I think OSP and the new government is pursuing it.
If you said you raised it, exactly what did you raise?
So if you look at the Unified Petroleum Price Fund, which is the UPPF, which is a depot to filling station or retail outlets fund, we realized that under Honorable Mustapha Hamid, it was increased more than 300% because I think even as early as 2022, the fund or the margin on the build-up was around 25 pesos per liter. But later he increased it to 75, increased it to 85, and currently, as we're speaking, the fund is around 90 pesos per liter. And if you look at the operational area of the fund or the equalization zone of the fund, which we stated earlier, we said 60% of the products are within maybe around 60% of the equalization zone, which is around 66 kilometers, and you pay these transporters 17 pesos per liter. So if you are paying transporters within the 66 equalization zone 17 pesos per liter, then why should consumers within that zone be paying 90 pesos per liter? And so consumers were paying, and when they were overpaying, it gave NPA a lot of resources or a lot of certain surpluses or income surpluses that they could fall on for certain corrupt activities or certain practices that benefits some of these individuals at the institution and not the state. So we realized that there was a huge increment in the margin, and when the huge increment escalated the revenue levels, they paid the transporters fewer and kept the others for personal gains and personal activities. However, for them to be able to achieve it, they needed some of the transporters. So they used a transport union or transport owners association, and then were deducting about 3% from the UPPF. So they deduct the 3%, keep the 3%, and then give it to the transporter, and then the transporters give it back to them. So that was the operation of organized crime they were operating. I think we raised it, but the previous government did not take any heed to it. But fortunately, the new government and the same OSP, but new OSP in terms of thought, has started pursuing this particular case. And that was the scheme, because this fund was realizing in excess of 4 billion Ghana cedis. And 4 billion Ghana cedis, only about 1.8 to almost 2 billion is given to the transporters annually. So you ask yourself, where does the other 2 billion go? But the other 2 billion was either with NPA or with the Transport Owners Union or Transport Owners Association, and then through the 3% deduction, it comes back to the workers or some of these employees at NPA who were managing the UPPF fund. So it should be a lesson for those managing the UPPF fund today that if you over balloon the fund, make a lot of revenue, make a lot of windfall out of it, and spend it on yourself personally, or find a way to spend it at the end of the year or at the end of the time, when your government is out of power, the law will catch up with you.
I see. So you knew that there was this collusion between the NPA and the transporters.
Yes, that was it. I think for now, NPA has, I think some of the transporters, especially some of the OMCs who were also owning transport companies, agitated when they realized that there was that 3% deduction from their revenues for the so-called Transport Owners Union. They agitated and called for its scrapping. So before this new government, in somewhere in December or so, the OMCs and other transporters forced for the scrapping of the 3%, 3%. I don't know whether it's a dues or welfare fund they were deducting. They called for a scrapping, so it was scrapped. But then it was generating in excess of 500 million Ghana cedis as a result of that particular deduction, because it was huge amount they were deducting from them, and they didn't even know, there was no justification for that deduction, and they didn't even know how the union was expending this particular deduction. Just to be told that the union president and some of the executives at the union level will say, oh, NPA, we used to pay NPA so that, and other state institutions so that they don't harass us on the way, or maybe they don't harass our operations or disturb us. At the end of the day, it was just a conduit to divert funds from the union to private or personal use by some of the staff at NPA, including the then chief executive officer of NPA. So that has been, they were able to cancel it. But I think same situation is also happening at BOST, where certain deductions are made from transporters and then kept at BOST, given to the union, and then it finds its way back to personal use by some BOST appointees. And I think the current BOST MD must also learn from this, because if in future it happens that you are not there and people trace that these deductions made to transport unions find their way into your pocket, you also be prosecuted same way Honorable Mustapha Hamid is facing.
I see. Let's go back to some basics. What is a UPPF? What is it supposed to do?
So the UPPF is a depot to filling station transport cost. And the reason why it was introduced, and I think it was introduced during the subsidies regime that were operating in Ghana, we wanted prices of petroleum products to be the same across the country. And we also know that there are different distances that we have across the country. So maybe someone in Accra could have been paying lesser for fuel than someone in the northern region or someone in the Upper East or Upper West region because of the distance. So when the distance is far, the freight cost is higher. So government decided that, okay, for us to get a fair pricing across the country or same prices across the country, let's introduce a unified petroleum price fund on the build-up, so that this build-up takes care of the cost of even those in Tamale or those in Bolga. So what it does is that when you buy fuel or purchase fuel, there is that margin on the build-up, and that margin takes care of the freight cost of the fuel from the depot to the retail outlets. And that is it in its simple terms. But it operates within certain equalization zones. So it has 66, it has about 246, and it has about almost 600 plus zones. So the country is maybe divided into three, from here to Kumasi to maybe Bupe area, from Bupe to Bolga area. So that's the division of it. And there's also a zonalization policy within this whole UPPF thing, where we were made to believe, and even that was the objective of government, that instead of distributing products from Accra to the middle belt of the country or to the northern belt of the country, we situate BOST in zones with depots, so that BOST will cut these products from the southern belt or the southeastern belt or the southwestern belt to the middle belt and also to the upper regions or the northern belt. So we have a BOST depot in Kumasi, we have a BOST depot in Bupe, we have a BOST depot in Bolga. And Bolga depot is meant to serve those in northeast, some part of northern region, upper east region, export, and maybe some part of upper west region. Then Bupe depot is supposed to serve some part of Bunafo or Bunu East today, so the Savannah region, and also some part of northern region. Ashanti region will be doing Ashanti, Ahafo, Bunu region, and some part of Bunu East region. And then we also have another depot in Japan who will be serving the Volta region and the Oti regions as we have them today. While there's one in Akosombo that will cut this product, which is Manuata, cut this product on the river to Bupe for onward transfer to Bolgatanga through pipelines with a booster station in Savulugu. So in all these zones, if the zonalization policy is even working efficiently and effectively, then it means that paying UPPF 90 pesos is on the higher side, very, very high. Because in each of these zones, you may not even cross the 66 kilometers equalization zone. And most of the products are consumed within the 66 equalization zone. If you look at Ghana, for example, most of the products are consumed in Western region, Central region, and Greater Accra region. And Western region has a depot. So no product moves from Greater Accra region to Western region. But anyone in Western region is paying 90 pesos per liter. Anyone in Central region is paying 90 pesos per liter. Even though in actual practice, the transporters who cut this product or distribute this product are paid averagely around 47 pesos per liter. So there has always been excess revenue realized by this UPPF. And because of that excess revenue, political appointees at NPA and their cronies in the private sector, with some support from the transport unions, take advantage of us and milk us, and then divert funds to transport unions and get back to them for personal use. And I think that our brother at NPA, HOG, and those manning UPPF must learn from some of these things. Your party may be in government, so you are free. But if it continues, when your party is out of government, you also be prosecuted because the money is available for you in excess of 2 billion. And if you don't know how to use it, you find a way to divert them into your pocket. If you continue, some of us see, you mentioned it. And if you don't listen and your party is out of government, you face the law. Same way Mustapha is facing. And I think that for us to streamline things, the minister needs to critically audit the price buildup because there are a lot of taxes or margins we pay that, excuse my language, that do not make sense. We are paying some of the margins, overpaying some of the margins. Why should I pay 90 when you are paying the transporter 17 pesos? Why should I pay 90 when in Ashanti region you are paying the transporter 47 pesos? Why should I pay 90? It doesn't make any economic sense, but you take it anyway. Why should I pay 23 pesos on primary distribution margin, knowing well that Boss is the sole beneficiary of primary distribution margin and distributes only about 7% of the products from APD to the other depots across the country? So those of us consuming the products, 93 of us paying 23 pesos per liter should not be paying because Boss only cuts 7% of his product to the regions, but you are paying anyway. So at any point in time, there are windfall resources, there are surplus resources at NPA, and these executives and their other appointees will find a way to milk it, and that is why I think Mustapha is in trouble. So we all must learn from it, and especially Boss too. They are still with that particular agenda where they deduct from source, from the transport owners, and then divert them to the transport owners union, which later finds its way back to some pockets at Boss. They must also learn from some of these because we are still keenly following them, and we'll make the announcement soon, or we'll make our pronouncement if the special prosecutor doesn't go after them. In future, someone will also go after some of these appointees there.
I see. Quite interesting. But I realize that in the energy sector, a lot is done to ensure that there's transparency in terms of revenue, the use of revenue that is generated. Is that not the case with this particular process from UPPF?
No, please. UPPF, NPA has never accounted for UPPF in any of its reports, especially for public. Maybe for government functions, maybe to SIGA, they may be aware of it, but for public, NPA has never accounted for UPPF. The last time I attended their meeting, in last year or so, we made certain pronouncements on it in the media. They called for CSO engagement, and they were bold to tell us that UPPF had a surplus of about 320 million Ghana cedis in 2022. So why should UPPF make a surplus? Right? But it made a surplus. And where even the surplus was diverted to, they didn't even tell us. Because at the end of the year, we looked at the performance of NPA through the SIGA, State Interest and Governance Authority publishes state ownership report. I realized that NPA surplus was not even up to 200 million. So if only UPPF was able to make a surplus of 320 million, then where did the money pass? Where did it divert to? It doesn't come. So there's no transparency even with respect to the accounting and management of UPPF. No transparency with respect to the accounting and management of primary distribution margin. No transparency and accountability with respect to the management of boss margin. They just take the monies from us anyway, make a lot of monies out of it, spend it the way they want to spend it, and later they come back to us again to pay fuel levy and other levies on the price build-up. So I think we need to very clear audit the price build-up, ensure that the revenues that we are overpaying, we take them somewhere out so that there will be a lot of efficiency in the system. And we also need to put the issue of transparency out. Like, we need to publish the report quarterly or maybe semi-annually so that CSOs can monitor and see how much are we making, who are those benefiting. Because with the cash waterfall mechanism, for example, in the power sector, we know how much you are receiving, and we know the beneficiaries of it. But for UPPF, I am paying, I don't know how much we pay at the end of the year until I sit in my office and do my calculation based on consumption and draw and say, okay, we made this. But I don't know who are the beneficiaries. I don't know the surplus until maybe SEMSE and our office pushes government, oh, this, and or they'll come and tell us, oh, let's engage. They engage, they tell you we made a surplus of 320 million Ghana cedis. Where the surplus went, they will not tell you. Or where the surplus will go, they will never tell you. But we know it diverses through the private sector back to some personal pockets as some of these state-owned institutions.
I see. So you urge a bit more accountability on this. How much it accrues and what it is used for.
Yes, and I think that this particular NPA must begin that initiative. Every quarter, they must tell us how much they realized from the UPPF and where these monies were utilized or who benefited from them. If there are certain surplus, they must let us know. If the surplus will go back to state coffers, they must let us know. If certain private individuals benefited from the surplus, they must let Ghanaians know. So accountability is key in their management.
But it seems ultimately you are telling the people at NPA currently that there's a huge temptation that if you are not careful, they'll fall to. And when they fall to, they'll be held accountable for it.
They might have already fallen into it. But if they are not careful, they'll fall into it. And they'll also be accountable to it in future.
I see. Ben, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, bro.
Benjamin Insia is Executive Director, Center for Environment and Sustainable Development. Explain to us exactly what's the issue with this UPPF. They say be plenty money. Like it says sometimes when they are done, they will now go and do 90 pesos. So they would have gotten figures with relation to the amount of fuel that was consumed within Ghana. And then you'll do calculations. So based on that, they will do times 90 pesos. So the number of liters times 90 pesos. Then they realize that sometimes it could generate as much as 4 billion within a year. 4 billion cedis. And this is basically, like I said, I think this transportation cost that's paid. So that you see the same pump prices, ex-pump prices in Tamale as you see in Accra. So you pay ahead to ensure that anywhere you go, the fuel prices are as close as possible. Now you don't get to Tamale and all of a sudden the fuel is 15 Ghana. Or else in Accra, it is 12. So that I think that's what they're trying to prevent, and this is what is under discussion. The UPPF money. The special prosecutor says over 280 million, 280 million, 516,127 cedis, 19 pesos, have gone down the drain, have been misappropriated, has been laundered through a scheme that was superintended over by Mustapha Hamid, who was in charge of the NPA. His co-conspirators are a certain Amwa, who was the UPPF coordinator, and Wendy Newman, who's a staff of the NPA. And they worked with some private persons. Some companies' names have been mentioned: Kel Logistics Limited, Kings Energy Limited, and PropNest Limited. That they were all involved in the scheme. The money is a lot of money. If SM gets some this morning, he will know what to do with it. You know what to do with it. But I think the temptation, like he said, is a huge one. It's a serious one. That is difficult to avoid anyway. Well, so So I guess the caution to the people at the NPA, led by God, be careful of UPPF money. And there's another question for you, those of you who are listening to us. Worms are dangerous, may cause loss of appetite, itchy skin, nausea, disturb studies in children, affect work performance. Therefore, use one tablet. Use one tablet. Wempless 400. Wempless 400. No sweetener or purgative needed. Wempless 400. Wempless 400. SM.
Yeah, anti when plus 400 need I aton asonson atamfo bi wo hwa no so ho didiguma on fansonson no when plus 400 no ofa bia beboa be kunsonson no sensonson no ba o musa na enema bebre na bi wo ha ma okra timi ho so de anyo ai when plus 400 kope bi na when plus 100 no wie pe na we bema e wo se usiesie ho sansa ho den beba ai sister beba fie bia o tukon beba fie na obeba fie na se na otwe no baba di ofie a e wo se oso no otimi siesie ho de twen sister sanse mu bedi odo ho nkomo na odo ho nkomo de wo sha se di odo ho nkomo atore bi atwetwe obese hwerema wo yi na twetwe enwom ba ai to hwa se